All right. How you doing, Connexus? Doing okay? All right, I'm live in the flesh. I'm not on video. I will be for the next 3 weeks after this, though, but this is my second favorite church in the world. I'm on contract to say Bayside's my first favorite because I work there, but you are my second. I just love the connection with Jeff and the team and you guys and be able to do sermon series a few times a year, and awesome to be able to kick those live with you. So super pumped to be here. If you got a Bible, Matthew chapter 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this series on the Sermon on the Mount. 4 sermons on the Sermon on the Mount, which is like the most famous sermon ever known. But here's the thing. It might be the most well-known part of Jesus' teachings, but the least obeyed, right? And part of that is because it's actually super hard to obey what Jesus tells us to do, because he comes out of the gate and for 3 chapters, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, he gives this kind of revolutionary way to live your life. And he starts saying things that are super difficult. And he's like, up is down, left is right. The people you thought were in are out. The people you thought were out were in. Everything's almost like contrary to nature. The way that you would do something, the way you were born, Jesus goes, no. I want you to do the opposite to that. And it's really hard. Like, this is what you're going to do with money. This is what you're supposed to do with sex. This is what you're supposed to do with family. This is what you're supposed to do with relationships, friendships, forgiveness, all this stuff. That's backwards. It's not the way, like, you naturally, like, turn the other cheek. Someone slaps you on the left, that's how you naturally feel, right? Watch kids. That's not how they react, right? If a kid goes in and they like jump out, this is what we do naturally. I've been literally in 2 fights in my life. The first one was this guy, Kevin, and he just punched me in the face. We were kids, and I didn't go like, hey, I'm going to turn the other cheek now, Kev. Give it another shot. I was like, bam, and then Kevin went, what? And then boom, and he was bigger than me, and he beat me up pretty bad. But the second fight I got in, I won. They hit me, and I choked him a little, rolled around on the ground a little bit. It was my cousin, Cheryl. It's a true story. So it's not actually that it's not actually that easy to like just turn the other cheek and to do all these things that Jesus says we're supposed to do. You're not supposed to worship money. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. All of these upside down, backwards things that Jesus lays out. And I remember this is how revolutionary the Sermon on the Mount was for me. I didn't grow up going to church. Came to church when I was 19. Came to know Christ at 17 in high school. A guy named Chris told me about Jesus at woodworking class, and I gave my life to Christ. And then I just had like a whole bunch of stuff, and he didn't really know what to do with me. He's just like, here's Jesus. And so I just started reading I was just like, I don't know what to do. So I just looked for the red letters, right? Because the red letters mean what? Jesus is talking. So I just opened up to the first book of the New Testament, Matthew, and looked for a lot of red letters, which was Matthew 5, and I just started reading. It was the Sermon on the Mount. And it would say all these revolutionary things that I would just then try to do, because it was like if someone asks you for your t-shirt, give them your cloak as well, right? And so I'm like smoking a joint. Someone's like, hey, can I have a puff? I'm like, here, take the whole baggie, right? It's like, just take it. Jesus wants you to have it, all right? It was like 2 years of my life just trying to figure out what does Jesus want me to do, and that's what I ended up doing. I just kind of living this life of trying to follow Jesus. And then finally I walked into a church, and I didn't want to come to church. I thought it would just be everyone would be 200 years old, and it would smell like mothballs. And so when I finally walked into a church, it was exactly like that. Everyone was 200 years old, and it smelled like mothballs. It was this old Baptist church. But there was a pretty girl singing on the stage, and I'm like, I love Jesus. Let's go, right? I love the church. The church is the bomb. So anyway, that's what the framework of the Sermon on the Mount. It's so revolutionary. It'll change your life if you pay attention, if you obey it, if you go, okay, this is what I need to actually be as a reflection of the world, which is why at the beginning, Matthew chapter 5, if you have a Bible, put it up on the screen. Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, he looks at the crowds, and he went up on a mountainside and sat down. So we read that, and we're like, yeah, mountainside, Jesus likes mountains. No, what he's doing is a revolutionary move, because it was the revolutionaries that would bring groups of people up the mountainsides to start giving them a complete alternative way of life than the Roman Empire was telling them. The Roman Empire would say, worship Caesar, give money this, do this with your sex life, do this with your family, do this with your work life. And only revolutionaries took people away up to the mountains and said, actually, I got a whole alternative kingdom that I want you to live out. I want you to be vastly different people than the Roman Empire. And this is why the Roman Empire killed them. 3 years of taking people up to mountainsides and explaining this revolutionary manifesto of here's who I want you to be. It would be like if I, in this room, just started talking about politics and saying we need to fight against the Canadian government, which is, what some of you guys do in your small groups. Probably too much. And so it's like if I did that, it's like we need to go against Canada. Let's everybody go against Canada. I don't want you to worship Canada. And so, yeah. So now this group starts growing, and then thousands and thousands, and people start talking about it. And so they're like, who is this? What's going on at this church over here? That's what's going on. He's doing revolutionary stuff. So he takes these people away, and he talks for 3 whole chapters when you read the Sermon on the Mount. And I'm just going to pick 4 sections of it. So he starts out, and it says he's got them up a mountainside, and he sits down, which is what the teachers did back then. He sits down, he starts to give them this kind of, this is the way to be human, and which is cool because he starts to like inspire us. This is like the Jesus revolution. This is the first Jesus revolution, and it's inspiring, and you read it, or you come to church and you get jacked up, but then here's the problem of where the Sermon on the Mount and our life, we hit real life. And sometimes it's really hard to stay really jacked up in a revolutionary for Jesus, right? Like in normal life, like in the morning, Tuesday morning, you get up, you read your devos with your coffee. You've already taken your Instagram post, you've posted it, and you've said #devos. And then you go into work, and your boss goes, hey, David, you spent $10 over your budget. That's strike 2. And you're like, shut up, I hate you. I don't even know what. That's where real life hits the Sermon on the Mount. Because you read stuff, you think stuff, you get inspired about stuff, and then real life crushes you, and you hit up against it, and this is where Jesus is like, I want you to live a revolutionary life. So he brings him up the mountainside, he sits down, his disciples came to him, it says, and he began to teach them. Now here's what he says. Verse 3, blessed are the poor in spirit. That's the first words of the Sermon on the Mount, what are called the Beatitudes. There's 8 of them. It comes from the Latin word beatitudo, which means blessed, or another version is happy. So he starts out, it's a Greek word makarios, he starts out going, I'm going to explain to you who is happy. I'm going to explain to you who is really, truly happy. Like, not happy like in circumstances, because that's always going to betray you, right? If you look to your circumstances in life, they will always let you down. Some of you, you look to your money to give you happiness. And Jesus is going to be very careful, never trust to money because you're going to lose it. And if you lose all your money, are you still happy? Have you found fulfillment? Do you have true joy if you lost your spouse? Some of you, you look to your spouses for your ultimate joy and fulfillment in life. Make me happy. This is why, happiness is the number 1 motivating factor in your life. It's the reason you do everything you do, right? It's the reason you wore the clothes that you wore today. It's the reason you're going to go for lunch to the place you're going to go. It's all driven by happiness. Why did you marry the woman you married, guys? Why did you marry her? Because of the happiness, I hope, right? I hope you weren't like down on your knee going, I don't know, I'm going to carry this cross the rest of my life. Friggin' marry me, whatever. And I hope the women weren't like, you didn't say yes, like, I have to choose somebody, I guess. Someone's got to give me a baby. You went, I'm jacked up. I love this guy. This guy makes me happy, hopefully. Oh my gosh, one lady, her husband makes her happy in the whole church. Right? It's like, it's not begrudging submission that you got married. It was joy that drove you. It's joy that drives every decision you make in life. Is for your own happiness. It's the number 1 compelling, motivating factor in any life at any moment is your own happiness, your own pleasure, your own joy. It's the reason, there's all these things we do. Okay, so I got 3 daughters at home, okay, 17, 15, and 13, which means I have 4 mothers at all times. And we went to the Taylor Swift concert, all right, yeah, thank you. One cool person in the whole crowd. So Went to the Taylor Swift concert down near San Francisco this summer, and these girls stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning to get those tickets, right? 2 o'clock in the morning to get those tickets because they were driven by what? Happiness. They want to be happy. These girls had never been happier. They stood. We got to that concert, and they stood for 3.5 hours. They were on their feet, singing every word, jacked up. I can't get these morons to stand up at home to do the dishes. Right? It's like, hey, I need you to get off your couch and do the oh, my knees, Dad. But T Swift, boom, 3.5 hours. They'll dance, they'll sing every word. Why? Because they're driven by joy, happiness. It drives everything to do with your life. And the problem is, we look to people and money and health and jobs and reputation to make us happy and to give us joy and to give us fulfillment, and it always lets us down. Like I remember I was preaching through a marriage series a few years ago, and this woman came up and she's like, hey, it was actually her and her husband came up, and she's like, we have 2 kids, I'm good. He wants another kid because he thinks it's gonna make him happy. And so I was like, done, I'm not gonna have any more kids, but now I've come to this sermon and I heard you preach about how having kids is a good thing and blah, blah, so I'm gonna say I agree, and I'm gonna give him another kid because, of this sermon. So it's kind of weird because then 2 years later, I meet this kid and I'm kind of like, I feel weirdly like involved and responsible. The kid's like, Daddy! I'm like, no, that's not what this was. This was inspiration, but this guy was looking for another kid to give him joy. And of course, we know if we trust to kids, it's not going to work, right? Because these kids, some of you have looked to other people's families and gone, how did they get those kids? Those are wonderful kids. My kids are complete morons, but those kids, they seem like they're going to be lawyers and they're going to do things, and then you look at your own kid, whatever, and you're like, what is wrong with you? And we all look to these things and we try to go, I want that, I want that. You know what the number one thing that will destroy your happiness in life? Comparison. If you scroll Instagram and look at other people's wives, you will never be content. And if you look at other people's husbands, you will never be content because they'll never make enough money, they'll never be that beautiful, And the reality is, God goes, no, the person that I put you with, that is now your level of beauty and joy and happiness. That's it. That's only people in the universe. It was Adam and Eve in the garden. There was no options, right? It was Eve or Hippo. That was it. So there wasn't looking around, there wasn't scrolling, there was nothing. And so literally the joy and derivement of happiness, you have to look at the person God has given you. And this is why Jesus is going, I'm going to crack open the secret to blessedness, makarios, happiness. And I want to redefine how you're ever going to be happy. That's what the whole Sermon on the Mount starts with. And so he says, okay, so how do you be happy? Blessed are the what? Thank you. Poor in spirit. It's amazing that he says this because in our world, who are the blessed? Who are the happy? The rich, the powerful, the celebrities, the beautiful, the people who get put on the covers of magazines, the people who are in movies, the people who live in mansions, the people who drive. The worldly definition of happiness and blessedness and fulfillment is those people. And he just went, no. It's actually the poor in spirit. So Martin Lloyd-Jones says, we cannot be filled until we are emptied. We can't come into the kingdom of God until we're completely empty of our own accomplishments. We can never be saved unless we go, I can't save myself. There's no amount of things you can stop doing. There's no amount of rated R movies that you can't watch and choose not to watch that will ever get you into heaven. There's no amount of good deeds that you could do where God will say, oh yeah, that's great. You did all those great things. Because what is that? That's wealth of spirit. You're trusting to yourself. You're saying, look at my accomplishments. Look at all the fulfillment. Look at all the great things I've done. God, I'm going to put my religious record on the table and I want you to let me in heaven because of that. And he's going, no. You have to have poverty of spirit. You have to get to a place where you're bringing nothing to the table. You have to get rid of all the cool factor in your life because you ain't cool. That's the only way to ever be in the kingdom of God is when you come to the place. And I get reminded of this. I'm always looking for these reminders in life where God's saying something theological to me in the everyday parts of life. So I don't know if I shared this with you in a past sermon, but a couple Christmas Eves ago, my wife said, we're going to go to this Christmas Eve party. And she said that the nature of the party is, and I'm like a pastor in the community, right? Like everyone knows who I am. It's Christmas Eve. I just preach all these Christmas Eve service. I'm in a nice suit. And I'm like, I'm going to go to this party. It's going to be legit. She says, no. The party is everyone's changing into their pajamas. And everyone's showing up to this Christmas Eve party in Christmas onesies, like those buttoned up onesies, whatever. And I'm like, I'm a full grown man. I don't think I'm going to dress in a onesie. And she's like, no. This is what everyone at the party is doing. So no joke, totally true. We get out of the car. I'm carrying a bunch of stuff for the party, and I walk up and I ring the doorbell, and I look in the window, and every single person in the party is dressed to the nines. They're wearing dinner dresses and holding cocktails and talking, blah, blah, blah. And I'm standing there in a green onesie. I'm like, what's going on? I said, what are we doing? They're all dressed up. And she's like, checks her phone. She's like, oh, shoot, we're supposed to put the onesie on after everyone leaves. Oh, my gosh. And I'm like, hey, right? Literally walk into this party and for 3 hours stood there talking to normal people with actual clothes on. And I'm in a green onesie, a full-grown man. They literally looked like they were at the set of The Great Gatsby, and I'm there looking like I just walked off the set of Elf. Like, hey, guys, what's up? Chatting. And in that moment, I was like, there's no way to be cool. I can't pull out of this. This is just what it is. I'm a loser at this party. I went and saw the Barbie movie. Anyone seen the Barbie movie in here? Right? All right. So I went to because I have daughters. This is girl dad stuff. So I go to the Barbie movie, and we're in the Barbie movie, and there's a scene where they're making fun of the patriarchy, and they're talking about like men. All men, they all like to mansplain. And so what that is. So that's kind of funny. So men like to mansplain, and they always like to mansplain, and their favorite movie is The Godfather. This is a scene in Barbie, right, where it's critiquing the patriarchy and how men are like, The Godfather is the best movie ever made. Do you want me to explain The Godfather to you? To women, and women are like, really? That's what the movie's about? And men are all, I'm literally in the theater wearing a Godfather t-shirt. No joke. And I'm like, and Barbie is just ripping me apart. And so I actually I said, hey, girl, can I borrow a sweater? And I took one of my daughter's sweaters and I walked out of the movie theater after putting a sweater on. Because I didn't want anybody, The Godfather, what a loser. So these moments are moments when there's nothing in my hands anymore. There's no way to be cool. There's no way to earn it. I have nothing here. And this is in fact, the word that Jesus uses for poor here, if you want to underline this or double click it if you got a poor in spirit, is actually a word. It doesn't mean like normally poor. It actually means one worse. It's the beggar who hides his face. So what do you bring to the equation of your own salvation? One writer has said this. The only thing you bring to salvation is the sin that necessitated it. That's it. You have nothing. You have to get to a place in your life where you go, there's nothing I can do, and Jesus is going, it's total bankruptcy of spirit. It's to the point where there was an image. My friend went on a vacation with some friends, and his buddy, this happened like last year, went out into the ocean, and he started really struggling in the water, and he started like drowning out in the ocean. He started screaming. My buddy ran up to the lifeguard and said, hey, this guy's drowning. And the lifeguard just stood there, and he stared at him. And he's like, hey, go. And he just stood there. And then over time, the guy in the water got tired, and he just went flat. Then the lifeguard ran out into the water, grabbed him, pulled him in, did CPR on him. He's fine. My buddy goes, what are you doing? Why'd you wait? And he said, I had to wait till he stopped trying to save himself so I could save him. or else he would have taken us both under. See, the problem is most of us come to the table and try to save ourselves. Let me be a good person. Let me serve in church. Let me do this. Let me do that. And you think God's going, oh, you did so many great things. And Jesus is like, the only way into the kingdom is absolute poverty of spirit where it's all gone. And then he says this, that's the first one. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That's how you get into the kingdom. That's how you become a kingdom person. And then he says, blessed are those, what's the second thing? There's 8 characteristics in the Beatitudes. The second is those who mourn, which is kind of a depressing word. And it's like, wow, Jesus isn't really coming out of the gate with a great, political rallying speech here. He's flipping everything upside down because in our brains, who are the blessed? It's the people who celebrate. It's the people who are all happy. Don't pay attention. When you don't pay attention to anything bad, just ignore the bad and carry on with what's positive. And Jesus goes, no. The only people who are really blessed are those honed into what we got to mourn about. Our own sin, our own brokenness, the things around us. Have you ever got to a place in your life where you're like, I don't last year I was at never pay attention to otherwise. This is why, if you've ever read the Screw Tape Letters, the uncle demon assigns this nephew demon to this new Christian and says, I want you to tear his faith apart. And so the little demon's like, hey, good news, uncle. There's bombs dropping all over London, which means the guy I've been assigned to, who's a new Christian, he's going to die soon, which is really good. And what does the uncle say? Don't let him die. Because if he dies, we lose him. Here's what I'd rather you do. Give him a good long life. 70 years isn't too much. Make sure he makes money. Make sure he starts to build up his reputation. Make sure he gets a whole lot of friends, because all of these things have a way of knitting a person's soul to the world, and it's in that moment that we can get them. It's not in the good times. And this is why Jesus is going, you better be honed in on the mourning, because it's the mourning piece of you. It's the brokenness part of you that goes, okay, now I'm ready to receive the grace of God. Charles Spurgeon, years ago, he said these words. He said, don't bring your strength to God. He has all of that. Bring him your weaknesses. He has none of those. Because that is where God can start to use you, right? This is why 1 Corinthians is like, it's the foolish things of the world that God will use. You know who the foolish things of the world are? You. The Greek word for fool in 1 Corinthians was moron. You are the morons that God will use. I did 3 years of Greek, so that was all just to get that moron word out of it, so I could look at you and tell you that. Morons! And once you start to own the fact that you're weak, then God can start. This is my life. You guys know I've told you my Tourette's story growing up. Don't need to do it again. But parents got divorced, got Tourette's, weird swear word. I say weird swear words growing up, which means you're never going to be a preacher because it's a weird job when you, welcome to Connexus, F. So you're never going to be a preacher when you randomly swear at people. And I have all these weird tics and all these habits that I would do growing up. It was really hard. And I was thinking about this the other day because I was like, man, God would never use me in light of having Tourette's to be a communicator and to ever tell anybody about anything. And I was thinking about this because I was reading Exodus, and where Moses shows up. Remember Moses shows up at the burning bush in Exodus 3, and he goes, who are you? And God goes, I am that I am. I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and here's what I'm going to ask you to do, Moses. I need you to go preach to power. I need you to go preach to Pharaoh. And he's like, no, I stutter. I can't preach to Pharaoh. And God's like, oh, you think I'm going to use you because you're great? No, I'm going to use you because I'm great. With all your nonsense. Moses, I get it. You have a stutter. Mark, I get it. You have Tourette's. You don't think anything's ever going to happen in your life. Listen, so I was reminded of this 3 weeks ago. This guy asked me to come preach at his church. The church is called Menlo Church in San Francisco. And he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to come and give a sermon on gender. What? I want you to preach on gender in San Francisco. I'm like, isn't there any other assignment you could give? Aliens, the end times, like something a little less controversial? No, I want you to preach on gender. So I spend 2 months prepping this gender message, and I read all these psychologists, secular, Dr. Luann, and I prep this whole sermon where I go into all these things, and I talk to this church. So I got it all prepped and ready. Like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to talk about how, for the general populace, a high percentage of the populace, the archetypes of blue and pink tend to ring true. And so you have Dr. Luann Brisendine's work, and San Francisco and University of California, super smart psychologist, not a Christian, and she's done studies where she'll put little girls in rooms with like a fire truck, and then 10 psychologists watch her. Within 6 minutes, the little girl has wrapped the fire truck in a blanket, and she's rocking it to sleep. And then they put dolls in a room, and they put little boys in there, and they come in there like, and they're all watching, and how all these archetypes like tend to hold true for a certain percent of the population. But that doesn't mean that you have to fit those archetypes all the time, because the Bible doesn't always hold those out. For instance, when is David being more masculine? When he's fighting Goliath, or when he's singing poetry in a field and writing the Psalms by himself? And then I prepped to sing, when are women being more feminine? When they're keeping a house, or like Deborah, when they're leading a nation to war? So I prep all this stuff. I get there, I'm okay, I'm gonna go do this. And he goes, okay. So I go to the front row, first worship song's on. He goes, oh, by the way, Condoleezza Rice goes to our church. Sorry, what? Okay, so for those of you generations, Secretary of State in the Bush years, like brilliant woman, Stanford, like, could be the president one day. I mean, crazy. And I'm like, sorry, what? She's not here though. He's like, oh yeah, she's third row. What? I would have worked way harder on this sermon had I known Condoleezza Rice was going to sit there. So I got up and I preached a sermon. And I'm like, here's this, and I'm preaching, and I'm like, and the kid and the girls, and then they're rocking the thing, and then the boy, and then David. And when is David more of a David? When he's out, more feminine, when he's out fighting and then I realized, when's Deborah being more of a woman? And I realized in that moment, this was for her. And I looked over her in the third row. When is a woman being more? Okay, this is weird. I'm looking at a dude right now. He's like, sorry. We'll go over here. When is a woman more a woman? When she's at home keeping a house, or when she's leading a nation to war? And I looked right at Condoleezza Rice, and she's sitting there going, sup, player? She came up after, she's like, this is how it affects you, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, me and Condi were chatting the other day. She was like, you're so... Hey, Moses, I want you to go speak to power even though you stutter. Hey, Mark, I want you to go preach to power even though you have Tourette's and you're nonsense to look at. You're completely distracting to look at. You're twitching around half the time, making weird noises. No one knows what's going on. Oh, because I'm going to use you because I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the only time that I can show up with that kind of power is when you're in a place of mourning, not power. When you mourn, when you get to a place of brokenness yourself and admit, okay, God might be able to use me because I'm not cool, because I'm not the most competent, because. And Jesus is going, this is when God shows up. Now he goes, blessed are those who mourn. That's the beauty. Blessed are those who mourn. And then he says this, for they will be what? Comforted. One of the great things in life when you live a life where you're gone through difficulty is to know that one day, even if your life is a disaster right now, you're going through an illness, you're going through sickness, you're going through difficulty, let's be honest, you're going through sin, you're going through different things in your life. One of the great things that the Bible holds out to you is one day you will be comforted. This is honestly one of the things that goes to our deepest soul level. Because at the end of the day, when I remember we rented a cottage every summer when I lived here in Muskoka. And one of the days, me and my brother and my two cousins ran to the dock, and I jumped in the water, and I went under the water, and I couldn't get back up. And so the three of them ran up to tell my mom that I was drowning, okay? So they run up, tell my mom, he's drowning, he's dead, he's gone. So my mom's like, what? So my mom comes running down, gets to the dock, looks at me. Now I, in the meantime, had got out of the water and gone up this way, and they all came running down this way. So I'm up in the cabin, getting dried off. My mom and the family are down looking for me. I look out the window, I'm like, oh man, I gotta go get those guys. I gotta tell them I'm alive. So I ran down, and they were coming up, which was kind of weird, because it only been like 2 minutes. And it was like, boy, no one's wet. You did not give this a real shot. Like, you've gone through the stages of grief. Yeah, let's get some lunch, right? So they're all coming back up to the cabin, and my mom sees me, and I run, and what do you think she did? Just embraced me, just hugged me, just comforted me. Because when you think of comfort, when you're down, and I'm talking about, listen, here's what I'm going to say, and I don't want to be super morbid, I'm just trying to be real with you. There will come a day when you are sitting in the hospital, and that machine beside you is beeping, and all your family is back home sleeping because it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and they can't sit with you, and you are on the edge of death with nothing left, and this verse will be all you have. Because he will comfort you. You ever seen Saving Private Ryan? That opening 20 minutes, all those 20-year-old guys on Omaha Beach getting blown up, their bodies are ripped apart, the guts are piled beside a guy, and what is he crying out? What is he screaming? Mom. I want my mom. This is what the Bible is so genius at. It exegetes the emotional. The ultimate thing we all want is comfort. Comfort. When life falls apart, we need the mom to hug us. We need the father. And the beautiful thing about Christianity, if your mom and your dad are a wreck, the great thing about Christianity, and this is one of the most, we have, you guys know what Folsom Prison is? Or you've heard of Folsom Prison, like Johnny Cash. Like when I lived in Canada, I heard Johnny Cash, went there, Folsom Prison Blues, all that stuff. I didn't really know Folsom Prison until I moved to Sacramento. Folsom Prison is 20 minutes from my house. So I arrive, I'm like, oh, Folsom Prison's right there. And we, as a church, have a campus on Folsom Prison. So every Sunday, I look to a camera, I say, hey, Folsom Prison guys, and 300 dudes in jumpsuits in Folsom Prison in Greystone Chapel are worshiping Jesus, watching the sermon. It's crazy. Folsom Prison. So then they come to us, they're like, hey, why don't you guys come and do a live church service here? And I'm like, no, video's cool. I like video. And they're like, no, live, man. And I'm like, okay, is there going to be like a plexiglass where I'm like, hey, guys, stay back, whatever. And they're like, no, we're going live into Folsom Prison. I'm like, okay. So literally, I'm a little nervous, never been in a prison before, and I wouldn't do well in a prison. So I'm like standing outside, and they're like, okay, come in. The gates start to go, and then they close, and an alarm starts to go off. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, someone got shanked, stabbed in the prison. I'm like, all right, we gave it a shot. Let's go. And they're like, no, 10-minute delay. I'm like, 10-minute delay? What are you talking about? Some guy just got shanked. We wait outside for 10 minutes, and they go, okay, you're good to go. And we walk into Folsom Prison. And we weren't in some tunnel. We were in Gen Pop, right? Like we were right in, and there's dudes like exactly in the movies. Like, and they're working out tatties on their face. And they're like, what's up? I'm like, what's up? And I see going to preach. And I walk into Greystone Chapel, and this guy just makes a beeline for me. And he walks right up to me, and he gives me this big hug. He looks at me first off, and he says, how are Aaron and the kids? And I'm like, you know my family? When are you getting out? These guys all know me because they listen to my sermons every week. They know everything about me. And whenever they get out of Folsom Prison, they come to the church. It's the first thing they do. And they sit front row, and they're jacked. And they love it. And I'm like, gosh, these guys mourn. They have poverty of spirit. They have nothing. They know what the grace of God feels like. And so I'm like, what do I preach to these guys? And it came to me, preach the prodigal son, this son who walked away and slept with prostitutes and messed his life up. And the minute he says, I want to come back, a father walks out and does what? Embraces him. Comfort. And so I looked at those guys in that prison that day and I said, how many of you had fathers who beat your mom, drank too much, or abandoned you as a kid? And all 300 hands went up. And I said, in the person of Jesus, you get a father who will never leave you, who will never abandon you, who will never drink too much, who will never beat on your mom. And these guys are weeping, because the concept of a father who would comfort them in the midst of their life changes your life. This is what Jesus is trying to say. You're going to be, and then lastly, he goes, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. The meek, the meek, the meek. Listen, what is meek? Meek is this. It's not weak. It's vulnerable to give other people permission to be real. Do you try to hold yourself together all the time and project a thing out to the world that you have your whole life together? Then you're not meek. Meek is the ability to go, I am not perfect, and I'm going to give you permission not to be perfect too. Which in my life is like, everyone knows, because I wear it. It's my Tourette's. It's the different things I do. Literally, there was a person who walked up to me the other day from our church, said, Pastor, I was in Starbucks. I walked into Starbucks, 7 o'clock in the morning. Pastor Mark, we go to your church. Me and my husband. And the husband's, hey, good to meet you. I'm like, good to meet you. And as I'm chatting with them, I sneezed. I'm like, achoo. They stared at me, and they did not say, God bless you, because they thought it was my Tourette's. Like, that would suck if my new tick was, achoo. But that's what they thought. It is my life to give people permission to be a disaster. So I shared this story in a sermon, and I'll pray for you, about my obsessive compulsive and how the way it works is like I have to tap things a certain amount of times when I was growing up so that nothing bad would happen. So if you said the word cancer, I'd have to hit this a certain amount of times so that you wouldn't get cancer. Or if I was going on a plane and I smacked something, I'd have to hit it a certain amount of times so the plane didn't go down. Or I'd have to do something with my hands so that this. And so I shared this illustration in a sermon one day, just random off the top of my head. I said, oh, this is it, but God healed me. This is a lady walks up to me on a Monday at the park, and she's bawling her eyes out. And she says, I went to church on Sunday. I'd never go to church, blah, blah. She's like, for 25 years of my life, here's what I've done. I sit there and I fold laundry, and I think if I don't take the corner of this towel and touch it to that corner, then my husband's going to die in a car wreck on his way home from work today. And if I don't take this part of the towel and move it over here, then my kids are going to die at school or something's going to happen. And so my whole life is lived obsessively about touching and folding, and I've never told, including my husband, another human being in the world, because I didn't think any other human being thought like this until you shared that. That's your job. Not to be cool. Not to project that you have it all together. Jesus goes, meekness. The vulnerability to give other people permission to find themselves at the end of themselves and then treasuring Jesus above all things is your job in the world. That's your job. He says those people will inherit the earth, and only those people. So let me pray for us. Jesus, we thank you for the Beatitudes. We thank you for the Sermon on the Mount, that it's so revolutionary. And I thank you that right at the beginning of it, you lay out the way to be these kingdom citizens and challenge us to set pride aside, to set accomplishment aside, and to find you by dying to ourselves. By coming to the end of ourselves and admitting we're not strong enough, we're not good enough, but you are. And you save us not because of us, but because of you. Your death, your on the cross where you took our sin, your resurrection from death to give us life, that we got to stop trusting in our own selves and trusting in the accomplishment that you did for us on the cross and in the resurrection. Lord Jesus, give us life. Help us to be kingdom citizens in a vastly different way and find true blessedness in you because of that death and resurrection versus anything we have to bring to the table. Do that in us. In Jesus' great name we pray. Amen.